Welcome and good morning. This is me, Stephen Hartley, with you. Mornings on Free Speech Radio. Good morning. And today we're going to talk about, well, what we were talking about last night, because it was so fascinating, really, to find out that the thymus gland is supposed to just exist until puberty and then sort of die some strange, slow death over the period of your life, turning into some sort of fatty mass that's no longer needed by the body. What I've noticed is that, the body doesn't operate like this. And if it did, then we'd probably know a lot more specifically what happened to it, at what age is, and it would be pretty set in stone. And then it would, why have an organ that's in the middle of a endocrine system, in your hormonal system, that's just going to dissipate and die? I mean, isn't that going to put a break in the system? So anyway, this is definitely something we need to look at more closely and find out what's really going on here. But before we do that, we'll just take a look at the latest news headlines. Politics, latest news. Government starts Pfizer vaccine publicity campaign with Jonathan Van Tam at its helm. Right, well, okay, thanks. Not much more about that. What are the new tier system rules, and when will COVID restrictions end? Restrictions on pubs and restaurants will change depending on the tier, while they are relaxing in other areas, including grassroots sport. So utterly boring. Brexit deal, what has been agreed and what happens next? Assessing the state of negotiations. Well, who knows what's going on there? I'm sure they're not going to tell us. COVID-19 vaccine, latest updates on Oxford, Moderna and Pfizer, breakthroughs, and who will get it first. Oh, God, it's so boring. Gyms are open. What do the new tier rules mean for fitness centres post-lockdown? Utterly, utterly boring. Tier 4 lockdown. What would the rules be and what UK areas could be affected? Scotland lockdown. What are the new COVID rules and Tier 4 restrictions? I mean, just this whole thing is so boring. Let's just listen.
Listen, 2020 hasn't been what we hoped, has it? But it doesn't have to be that way.
Firstly, the levels. We're proposing today 5 levels of possible intervention. This will allow us to take a national approach if required. It is possible that the whole country at some point could be placed in the same level. However, it also means that we don't have to take a one-size-fits-all approach if that is not what...
Oh, so boring. Right, so it seems in the headlines there's nothing really about anything. Oh, there's something. Boris Johnson to commit to new carbon emissions target. Oh yes, I heard about this. We're going to get rid of gas boilers. What are we going to replace gas boilers with? Not quite sure what other options there are to heat your home. I mean, electric's a little bit of a waste, isn't it? Plastic bottles can travel the length of Britain 3 times in 3 months. Well, maybe we should use them to transport goods. Police could be made to pay compensation for letting victims down. What's happening with all those cops who were sort of marrying women and having children with them and then finding out they were, in an undercover investigation? God, that's got to be an awkward dinner table. Generous grading and advanced briefings on topics. Grade inflation entrenched for 2021 exams. Ugh, what rot. Brexit. UK has given ground on fission quotas, says Michael Barnier. Well, okay, whatever. Why Remainers and Leavers will blame Brexit economic disruption on each other. That's it. So we can all rip each other to pieces and they do their job for them. Broadband divide leaves Surrey Road in slow lane while Cheshire Street is 5,000 times faster. Ooh. Care homes using do not resuscitate orders without consent of patients and families report fines. Yeah, well, this whole thing's trying to get rid of them, isn't it? Eton master quits role in free speech row and attacks indoctrination of students. Quite right. Right, well, that's enough of the news. I mean, it is so boring. So let's have a look at the thymus. Did they know about it in ancient Greece? Well, I put a little search in and something came up, so let's read this. The thymus gland in ancient Greek medicine. The term thymus was used in ancient Greek medical literature to describe not only the thymus gland, but also the warty excrescences found mainly in the genitals or the anus. Lovely. I wonder why you'd link those two. But the main interesting thing here for me is that the Greeks knew about it. I mean, apparently we didn't really know its function until 1960, yet the Greeks in 2000, 1000 BC knew about the thymus gland. But why they gave the same word to warty excrescences found mainly in the genitals or the anus, I don't know. And I don't know why that's there. But also over the entire body. Rufus of Ephesus gave the earliest anatomical description of this gland in humans, while Galen first described it in animals. However, the origins and meaning of this term have long mystified researchers. A careful investigation into its etymology, together with the information derived from early anatomical descriptions, has enabled us to propose a new interpretation of the origins of the name of the thymus gland. The origin of the term thymus, Greek, to describe the thymus gland have baffled researchers in Indo-European linguistics. The PIE root D, meaning vapor, fumes, formed the basis for a large number of words throughout the IE languages, possessing the basic literal meaning of to rise in a cloud. For example, Latin fumus, smoke, steam in Greek. It both produced literal and metaphorical meanings. The verb to sacrifice initially had the meaning of making smoke. The non-vik having two meanings, both literal fume but also metaphorical mental effervescence, anger, passion, spirit, and the place of the soul situated in the heart, the breath of the soul. Yeah, because now we're getting somewhere, because that what I've noticed with my meditation is that different areas of my body at different times have felt very important, powerful, and I've moved in the last few years of thinking that I'm in my head to feeling my true presence in the center of my core, in my soul. And the heart area is specifically important. Now, I felt things on that thymus spot, much to do with faith, and one of the spirits of God, faith. I certainly had it in that area. Also, is what I was talking about yesterday, how the hormones kind of guide you in your life course of your true destination in where you're supposed to be going in this life. And your hormones sort of, they somehow know because it's encoded in your DNA, and they encourage you when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and make you feel reluctant to do what you're not supposed to do. So I like this idea of vapor and fumes, and because when you feel these, they're like it's like gravity, and it's like it feels much bigger than the organ itself could be. You know, it sort of seems to emanate out even beyond your body sometimes, and it's certainly a force akin to gravity, which is, you know, is a pushing force, isn't it? Or pushing or a pulling. It's a that sort of guide, pulling and pushing you in the right direction. And then when you're in the right direction, it kind of doesn't feel like a pressure anymore. It flows as if to say, yes! Right? Interesting. Thymus in ancient Greek medicine and medical literature. It should be borne in mind that in ancient Greek medical literature, the term thymus, Greek, mostly in the plural form, that is thymoi, while being used to describe the thymus gland, mainly referred to warty excrescences or outgrowths that may be seen in the genitals or anus. Piles, though generally throughout the body. Okay. This term was used due to resemblance to the outgrowths to the thyme, Thyme. What they mean the herb? The earliest medical description of the thymus gland is found in the work of Rufus of Ephesus, who described the thymus as a gland located over the heart, before the seventh thoracic spondyle, and also before the end of the bronchus, which reaches the lung. Rufus of Ephesus also noted that this gland is not seen in every man. A similar description is additionally found in the work of Julius Pollux, 2nd CAD, Julius Pollux Gram, references Galen, 1st to 2nd CAD, also described this gland in animals, writing that the thymus should not be considered as a small-sized gland, it being large in newborn animals but becoming smaller and harder when they have matured, thereby describing the involution of the gland. The involution, the shrinking, we heard that yesterday. Now, I can understand something, so this is in animals. Now, what type of animals was he checking? Probably not wild animals, probably domesticated animals. Now, it becoming, large and newborn and then becoming smaller and harder when they've matured. I mean, that I can understand, in a sense it could be, it's done its main job, but it remains there. I mean, something small and hard can suddenly change, expand, and do something. Let's carry on. Of great interest is the reference to the thymus by Joannes Galenus, 14th CAD, who was not a physician but a philosopher, considered to be a Hypatus Philosophorum, chief of the philosophers, while also holding the office of Chartophylax, keeper of the records, of the province of Justinia Prima, and of all Bulgaria under Byzantine Emperor Andronicus Pelagius the Younger. In his commentary on the Iliad, and specifically of verse Y406, Homer, where Achilles strikes Polydorus with his spear, Joannes Galenus wrote that the thymus was a gland located between the two collarbones for the protection of the trachea from injury. Taking into consideration all the above, so that last little bit there is a bit inconsequential, really, isn't it? Taking into consideration all the above information, we can now propose an explanation for the origins and meaning of the term thymus to describe the thymus gland. The fact that ancient Greek and Byzantine physicians clearly used the term thymus mainly in its plural form, thymoi, to describe the warty excrescences found in the genitals and the anus, and as added by the Byzantine physicians in every part of the human body. leads us to believe that the term described in two different anatomical elements, i.e. water excrescences as well as the thymus gland. This distinction points to the possibility that the term thymus to denote the thymus gland had different origins, from the term thymus to thymoid signifying the watery excrescences, which are likened to the appearance of the plant, the thyme. Okay, fine, right. So their obsession with watery excrescences, you know, it could, well, you would be obsessed with it if you had them, if this was your problem, and perhaps, after the thymus is killed off, perhaps all the body is left with to manage is to create these watery excrescences, possibly. But we don't know. That's just a guess. In our view, the key element clarifying the naming of this organ is the observation of its right. Why are they so obsessed with the naming of it? And they'll probably spend 40 years of their life just delving into the how it got named and everything else. The most interesting fact here is that the Greeks knew about it. I don't know what they knew about it. If you just take how they named it, things like to rise in a cloud, sacrifice, and the meaning of making smoke, stuff to do with mental effervescence, anger, passion, spirit, the thing that drives you. Thing that drives us. Let's have a look at a bit more modern stuff then. An overview of the thymus gland playing a role in immunity, autoimmunity, and aging. The thymus gland is a small organ behind the breastbone that plays an important function both in the immune system and endocrine system. Though the thymus begins to decay during puberty, its effect in training T lymphocytes to fight infections and even cancer lasts for a lifetime. Okay, good. Sounds good, doesn't it? Learn more about the role of the thymus in immunity, autoimmunity, and aging, as well as how several disorders may affect this important organ. The thymus gland lies in the chest, directly behind the breastbone, sternum, and in front of the heart in the area between the lungs called the anterior mediastinum. Mediastinum. Sometimes, however, the thymus gland is found in another ectopic location, such as the neck, the thyroid gland, or the surface of the lungs, the pleura, near the area where the blood vessels and bronchi enter the lungs. Or on the surface of the lungs, near the area where the blood vessels and bronchi enter the lungs. Okay, sometimes they find it a bit differently. It is named the thymus due to its shape being similar to that of the thyme leaf, pyramid-shaped with two lobes. The two lobes of the thymus are broken down into lobules. These lobules have an outer cortex occupied by immature T lymphocytes and inner medulla occupied by mature T lymphocytes. The thymus is considered a lymphoid organ, an organ of the immune system, similar to the tonsils, adenoids, and spleen. Cells of the thymus. A number of different cell types are present within the thymus gland. Epithelial cells, cells that line the body surfaces and cavities. Kolchitsky cells, cells that are the hormone-producing cells of the thymus, or neuroendocrine cells. Thymocytes, cells that become mature T lymphocytes. The thymus gland is also home to some macrophages. Macrophages are known as the garbage trucks of the immune system because they eat foreign matter. Dendritic cells and a few B lymphocytes, the types amounts of lymphocytes that produce antibodies also reside in the thymus. Interestingly, the thymus gland also contains some myoid, muscle-like cells. Changes with age. The thymus gland is large in infants, but after infancy it grows and reaches its maximum size during puberty. After puberty, the thymus gland shrinks and becomes largely replaced with fat. Interesting. The gland is very small in elderly people, but can sometimes atrophy, and prematurely in response to severe stress. The term used to describe the atrophy of the thymus gland with age is thymic involution. Now let's just look at the posh word they've used there. Atrophy. Atrophy, any of a group of progressive hereditary disorders involving degeneration. Atrophy is the partial or complete wasting away of part of the body. So the gland is very small in elderly people, but sometimes it can happen earlier in response to severe stress. So you can lose your thymus in response to severe stress. Severe stress would come from what? Not doing what you're supposed to be doing in life. The term can be used to describe the atrophy of the thymus gland. Alright, so yeah. So this is one of the big things with the thyroid, is that it disappears over time and depends on how stressed you are. The thymus gland is very active from before birth until puberty, and it functions as both a lymphatic organ and an endocrine organ, an organ of the endocrine system that produces hormones. In order to understand the role the thymus gland plays in immunity, it's helpful to first distinguish between T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to read that. Because I'd like to know a bit more about its hormonal role. We can look at the immune system later in other episodes. The immature T cell, we're still on it. Hormone production. The thymus gland produces several hormones including thymopoietin, thymulin, hormones that assist in the process where T cells differentiate into different types. Let's just have a quick say what T cells are. I mean, we know they're linked to the immune system, don't we? But they seem like one of the most important things in the immune system. T cell is a type of lymphocyte. The T cell is originated from hematopoietic stem cells, which are found in the bone marrow. However, the T cell matures in the thymus gland, hence the name, and plays a central role in the immune response. T cells can be distinguished from other lymphocytes by the presence of a T cell receptor on the cell surface. These immune cells originate as precursor cells. Derived from bone marrow and develop into several distinct types of T cells once they have migrated to the thymus gland. T cell differentiation continues even after they have left the thymus. Groups of specific differentiated T cells have an important role in controlling and shaping the immune response by providing a variety of immune-related functions. One of these functions is immune-mediated cell death, and is carried out by T cells in several ways. T cells, also known as killer cells, are cytotoxic. This means they are able to directly kill virus-infected cells as well as cancer cells. T cells are also able to utilize small signaling proteins known as cytokines to recruit other cells when mounting an immune response. A different population of T cells function as helper cells. Right, there's more, and they're important, okay? Do you want your thyroid to work? Of course you do. sounds like it's an extremely important thing to maintain your health. The thymus gland may produce small amounts of some hormones produced in other areas of the body, such as melatonin and insulin. Cells in the thymus gland, such as epithelial cells, also have receptors through which other hormones can regulate its function. So you've got to let it work. I mean, understanding our own bodies is extremely complex. And, but it works if we leave it alone. Excuse me. There are a number of diseases and disorders that can affect the thymus gland, ranging from genetic disorders that are evident at birth to cancers that are most common in older adults. These disorders can lead to the problems with immunity and autoimmunity, such as myasthenia gravis and hypogammaglobulinemia. Lovely. More diseases: thymic cysts, tumours of the thymic gland, thymectomy, that's when they remove it. Consequences of thymus removal. The thymus gland provides a critical role in cell-mediated immunity, but fortunately a significant part of this benefit occurs before birth. The T cells formed during the development in the uterus are long-lasting. However, there are potential consequences of removal in early life, such as when the thymus is removed during heart surgery in infants. Ooh. It appears that early removal may increase the risk of developing... See, that's exactly the type of thing they would do just to experiment. Bastards. It appears that early removal may increase the risk of developing infections. No shit, Sherlock. The development of autoimmune diseases, again, the risk, everything basically. There's also some evidence that thymus removal may be associated with premature aging of the immune system. A word from Very Well. The thymus gland is a tiny gland that essentially disappears with age, but plays an important role in immunity and autoimmunity for a person's entire lifetime. As changes in the thymus gland have been linked with the aging of the immune system, researchers are studying ways to delay the atrophy. Yeah, well, I'm glad the scientists are on it. How about stop making kids hate their life, forcing them to do things they really don't want to do? Perhaps that is the beginning of the atrophy of the thyroid. Have a think about that. Okay. I think that's going to do it from us today. See you on the next one.